All right, welcome to Child Development 195, the environmental rating scale information, and sometimes people call it the ERS. I personally don't like that too much, but I just like the environmental rating scale. So anyway, so we're going to be talking a little bit, this is a little introduction information to it. Um, Child Development 152, which is the environmental rating scale, is a prerequisite for this class. So you should have either completed the A, which is the early childhood environmental rating scale, or the B, which is the infant toddler, the C, which is the family child care, or the D, which is the school age care. So in order to take Child Development 195, you would have to be concurrently enrolled or have already had that as a prerequisite. But I know some of you might have taken that class, the 152, quite some time ago. So this is just a quick little refresher for that information. And I know some of you have just completed it this semester. So for some of you, you really probably don't need this lecture as much. Of course, a quick review is always helpful, even though you just finished the course just a few weeks ago. So everybody's at a little different stage, so I'm going to, again, just treat this as a quick little brief overview, so not too detailed. So what is the environmental rating scale? So it's an attempt to systematically and scientifically examine your environment. It's a tool to provide you with specific things that you can do right now to enhance your environment. And it's a way to promote a definition of a high quality environment. And for the sorry, I'm in my squeaky chair tonight. For the purposes of the 195 class, this is really the third bullet here is really the one that we're focusing on, because in order to apply to be a mentor teacher in the field, you do have to complete a rating scale or have had one completed, especially if you're in the QRIS. You're already been Eckerd or ITERD, or generally one of those two, Eckerd or ITERD. So had the Eckers or the ITERs completed in your classroom. Or if you're applying and you don't have, you're not part of the QRIS, then you would be doing a self rating scale in addition to committee members coming out to do uh, another rating scale to make sure that you are you do have a high quality program, a classroom and program, mainly classroom, but overall program too. So high quality environment. So that's what we're really focusing in here on this class. The Eckers, the third edition. Some of you are still maybe on the revised edition, depending upon your program and so forth. So it could be the Eckers R or the Eckers 3 that you're going to be completing for this class. It could be also the ITERs, or which is the infant toddler, or the family child care, or the school age care. So any of them will work for this class. It's based primarily on your program. If you're currently not teaching, then you would be doing it on in another program. Inventory, of course, inventory the materials as quickly as possible, no matter which rating scale you're using. And then try to take advantage of those temporal opportunities. So remember, when the children are outside, go outside, take notes outside, and complete the outdoor and gross motor areas during that time that they're outside. And then, of course, when they're inside, if there's a meal, breakfast, lunch, or snack, then, of course, you'd want to be, writing your notes for the hand washing, possibly the toileting, diapering section, or item, and the meal times, the health practices, and so forth. How to score. So remember, try to answer the easy and time-sensitive questions first. And you're not completing the entire rating, so you're marking your little yeses and nos in your different indicators for each item. So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, depends on which item it is. So try to mark some of those easier ones first, and you're not going to get through that whole thing when you're doing your 3-hour observation. You're going to have to go back and finish the actual rating and the scoring after your observation, so don't forget about that. Score based only on the current situations. So sometimes that's difficult, especially if you're scoring your own classroom. You're like, oh, yeah, man, we always do that, but today we didn't do that. Well, guess what? You have to base it on that current situation, because if the selection committee members comes out, or some of the raters come out for the quality, the QRIS program, it's going to be based on the day in which they're there. And then always begin at 1 and work your way up. So, and we want to make sure that all of the indicators are marked. So all of the 1s, all of the 3s, all of the 5s, all of the 7s, all of those are marked for each item. The reason for that is that you want to make sure you know where you need to make your improvements in order to bring up your scores. So even though you know that item might score a 2 or a 3, you still want to mark all the 5s and the 7s in order to see where it is that you need to make some improvements. All right, how to score continued here. There's one difficult thing to understand. Remember about the 1s. So the 1s are written in the negative, which can be confusing. So remember the math class, if you have a negative plus a negative, it equals a positive. So a negative question and a negative answer of no, so if you mark a no in the box, it's a good thing, it's a positive answer. So therefore you can move on. That's the same thing with the rating scale. So you actually want to have no's marked in your 1s and then yeses marked in your 3s, your 5s, and your 7s. Again, this should all just be review for you, but for some of you it has maybe been a while since you've completed the rating scale class. The environmental rating scale, of course, uses that 1 to 7 point scale. Again, try not to let your feelings about your program or the program influence you. So you want to make sure that you're doing it with as non-biased eyes as you possibly can. Remember, scores of 7 are extremely rare. Scores of 1 are also very rare, except when we get to the health, safety, and hand washing areas. In other words, you should not be scoring all 7s on your items. No classroom or center is perfect, because remember, the mentor-teacher selection committee and so forth is going to be, scrutinizing it at a high degree, in that sense of looking at it for exactly what it is that they're seeing and observing in their classroom. So in order to be a mentor teacher, so you should have at least somewhere there in the 5s, the high 5s, or possibly even the low 6s. So again, not everything's going to be scored a 7, but you want to have that average at least of 5s or 6s, high 5s or low 6s, in order to become a mentor teacher. So there might be some things in which you need to improve in your classroom before you can actually apply to be the mentor teacher, mentor teacher program. So for instance, if you are lacking on, oh, maybe this is one. This is always one. Not sanitizing the sinks before each meal. Or between the time in which children use it for bathroom versus meal times and so forth. So that's an easy fix. You could do that and just keep up with that, because the proteges, the student teachers that you have in your classroom, are going to be learning from you and seeing that, oh, that's an important thing. I should do that in my classroom too. So again, 5s is really what, somewhere in the average of 5s. You're going to have some 1s probably, and you're going to have some 7s. But an average of 5 is something that the mentor-teacher selection committee is looking for. Of course, keep your textbook available the whole time that you're rating, that you're observing and rating. Do not talk or interrupt the staff. You have to be like that fly on the wall. Write down, and of course you are there, in your own classroom. Now, for some of you, you might not be observing in your own classroom. You might be observing in another classroom because you're currently not a teacher in a classroom. So if you are, then of course you wouldn't want to talk or interrupt the staff. If you're observing in your own classroom, that makes it a little bit more difficult, because sometimes the children and staff want to talk to you, but tell them that pretend I'm not here on this day. And then write down on the score sheet while you're observing. So again, your sheets should be covered with notes back and front, to make sure that that you're getting as much information as possible there on your score sheet, in order to in your observation sheets within the score sheet, in order to make sure that you are rating accurately. So which one do I circle? This is a really good page, so this might be something that you copy down. Let's see if I can make, what I'll do is I'll make this a slide. Let me write a note on that. I'll make this a slide as just a one slide for this whole. I will make a PDF of just this one slide. And so you have it so you can take it as reference because it is a helpful one. So which one do I circle if you don't remember? Remember a 1, if any item scored is scored yes under the ones. Remember yes is a negative for the ones, so you would circle the ones. You check out the 2s if all items under the 1 are scored no, which is a positive thing, and at least half the items under 3 are scored yes, then you would mark that 2. And then if you have in order to get a 3, you'd have all the no's under 1s and all the 3's under yes. So yeses are positive for the 3's, 5's, and 7's, and no is a negative. So going back and forth on that. Don't ask me why they did that. You know that. I have no idea. It drives all of us nuts. The 4's and 5's, so if all items under 3 are met and at least half the items under 5 are scored yes, then you'd mark a 4. You'd circle that 4. You'd circle a 5 if all the 1's are no's. If the 3's are all yeses, and if all the 5's are yeses, then you can score that 5. And then the 6's, of course, you have that 50% rule again. So all the 5's have to be yes, and then at least half the 7's need to be yes. And in order to get that 7, you have to have all yeses in the 3's, the 5's, and the 7's. Okay, so I made a note, so I'll make this slide available to help you with that scoring part. How to use a scale? Of course, you base the ratings on the current situation, not on future plans that you might have for your classroom. A score of 1 is given if any of the description matches, of course. 3's and 5's are only given if all parts of the description are met. Okay, so remember the 1's, like even if there's just one no or one yes under the 1's, then remember that's negative. You'd score that a 1, so you're not able to score any higher than that. The ratings of the 3's and 5's are only given if all parts of the description are met. The midpoints of 2's and 4's are given when all of the lower and at least half of the 50% of the higher scores are observed. And use a pencil, as you know. Really, it's just better to use a pencil on this observation. All right, if you have any questions, please ask on the discussion board. If you need any reminders, any tips or hints, please make sure that you do that on the general discussion board, and I'm more than happy to help you. Again, there's going to be additional information within the module based on the which rating scale that you choose to do for your classroom. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.